Hello, welcome to Microfiche Microphone. I'm Micah, and on this channel we look at microfiche from the past, old newspaper articles in the public domain, and we look at them with our modern eyes, our modern perspective, and we see what we can learn from them. So, on this Microfiche Time capsule, we are continuing our series on interesting war items, and this one is from Kansas Farmer, September 7th, 1918. So this particular series has been kind of a hodgepodge of everything war related. It can be a little bit of propaganda. There's some racism thrown in there sometimes, but in general, it's also some general information and also some sweet stories sometimes get creep in there as well. So it's just kind of a mix. It's a mixed bag, and we don't know what we're gonna get. So I find it very interesting. The last time I got quite upset, I apologize. It was just because of the blatant misinformation. I hate misinformation, but hopefully we won't have any this time. So let's cross our fingers. All right, interesting war items. Relatives should not write to the Bureau of Communication on the slightest rumor that their man is wounded, killed, or missing. In most instances, such rumors are false, and frequently they have been circulated as enemy propaganda. What? Okay. That's okay. I just can't imagine that in the middle of a war, the other side would pick out the specific name of your loved one and spread a rumor that they're dead. I mean, unless they were prisoners of war, they wouldn't know their names. So I find that very, very hard to believe. Enemy propaganda? That's weird. Except in rare instances, if the man is wounded, killed, or missing, official notification from the War Department will have been promptly sent to the emergency address which he gave. However, if the statement that the man is wounded, killed, or missing comes from an apparently reliable source, a letter should be addressed to the Bureau of Communication, American Red Cross, Washington, giving his full name, age, and the time when he entered the service. To confirm that it is true. Wow. So apparently a lot of people are contacting them in official capacity, even though they hadn't been contacted in an official capacity. So I guess they're trying to stop that. I can kind of understand that. On the other side, I can totally understand the families. I mean, geez, it's a hard time. World War was not pretty, and a lot of people died. So, it might have been your son who died, I mean, that's what people are thinking, and I don't blame them. Particulars as to death. If the relatives of an enlisted man are notified of his death, they may obtain further particulars as to his death by writing to the Bureau of Communication, American Red Cross. Imagine that. Private John Howard Smith, serial number 85634, Colonel Co-L? I don't know what that means. 125th Infantry, American Expeditionary Forces, age 26 years, entered service July 30, 1917. Bureau of Communication, American Red Cross, Washington, D.C. Gentlemen, I have received official notification from the War Department, or I have been informed from a creditable source of the death of my son named above. Can you give me further particulars? Very truly yours, Mary Hunter Smith, Mrs. Joseph Walter Smith. Box 25, RFD 2, McPherson, Kansas. I don't know why they included an actual one here. That sounds like an actual person, except for the fact that the last name is Smith. But then again, I guess there are people named Smith, so, that's why it's such a popular one to use. But, this is extraordinarily specific. I'm assuming they made it up, but maybe they didn't, But that's interesting that you could ask for more particulars. I'm glad you could. I hope that information was forthcoming for most people. All right, moving on. Red Cross Home Service. If the relatives of a soldier or sailor serving abroad have received no word from him for an unreasonable length of time and desire to inquire as to his welfare, they should write directly to the Bureau of Communication, American Red Cross, as follows. Private John Howard Smith, serial number 85634, and same one as before, yeah? COL whatever that means, 125th Infantry, American Expeditionary Force, age 26 years, entered service July 20th, 1917. Bureau of Communication, American Red Cross, Washington, D.C. Gentlemen, I have received no letter from my son named above who has been abroad since last May. Can you secure any word for me about his welfare? Very truly yours, Mary Hunter Smith, Mrs. Joseph Walter Smith. Box 25, RFD 2, McPherson, Kansas. So they're just giving you an example of what it should look like. So I am going to make the assumption that this information is not a real person. Yeah. I don't know if it is or not, but I'm going to assume it was not, simply because they used it twice for two different examples. What's interesting is that they started this out by saying, don't write to the Bureau of Communication if you hear a rumor that your child is dead. And then they said, but if you do get notified that he's dead, you can contact them and ask for more particulars. And then they said, if you're concerned about the welfare of your child, then you can also contact them. Like, if you heard rumors that your child was dead, would you not be concerned about their welfare? Yeah? So basically you're saying don't contact them if you think your child might be dead, but go ahead and contact them if you're concerned about their welfare. I mean, is that not the same thing? I mean, I'm just saying, I have kids, and if I thought one of them was dead, I'd be concerned about their welfare. I'm just saying. Ugh. Okay, now this one's about German people. They tend to be incorrect, at least according, based on our experiences last time, where I got so upset about it. So, yeah. Hopefully they're not going to claim that they follow Norse mythology again. That was weird. So if you're curious about that, see my last video, part 4. That was weird. Yeah, this is part 5. So Germans tired of fighting. The Americans have very little tendency to take prisoners. A soldier at the front confesses in a letter printed by the Larned Chronoscope. Oh, they quoted them last time. I think that's a local paper in like a little town of Larned. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. So feel free to correct me if you happen to know. But those they do take say lots more would come over if we weren't so quick on the trigger. Okay, let me read that again. The Americans have very little tendency to take prisoners, but those they do take says lots more would come over if it weren't so quick on the trigger. If we weren't so quick on the trigger. They're saying that the Americans are better at just killing people? That's awesome. Great. Wonderful. Oh my gosh. Okay, the Germans are so treacherous, though, you never can tell. They'll send out a few, and as you go to take them and are a bit off guard, their comrades open up on you with a machine gun. Other times, an innocent party of them may try to give up, and you shoot them down. But you can see they're sick of it, or they wouldn't care to surrender so easily. They'll earn all their American prisoners. This is anecdotal evidence. Once again, this is like saying that a whole country of people does something based on the experience of one person at one particular time. I don't really care for this evidence. I don't feel like it is evidence. I'm going to move on. This is just another example of we're better than them. Us versus them attitude. Okay, cleanliness in war. Every army in Europe is fighting two enemies. The enemy on the other side of the trenches and the disease in its own. Yeah, I've heard of this, says Rupert Blue, Surgeon General of the United States Public Health Service, in a very readable as well as a very instructive article on fighting dirt in the Youth's Companion. One weapon described by Mr. Blue in telling of the campaign against dirt and disease during the war in Europe is the antiseptic uniform. Military surgeons noticed some time ago that a man wounded by a rifle bullet rarely suffered from any complications of his wound because the bullet drilled a clean hole. The wounds caused by pieces of shrapnel, however, were almost always infected because the shrapnel found particles of the dirty uniform in the wound. On that account, a large number of the troops abroad have been equipped with uniforms saturated with an antiseptic. I wonder if that helped. During the Russo-Japanese War, the Surgeon General says, the Japanese set an excellent example to the world of what cleanliness means to the modern fighting man. For example, it is the rule of the Japanese Navy that every sailor before going into action shall, if possible, take a thorough bath and put on a clean uniform. Virtually all the fighting units in the war in Europe have taken advantage of these modern ideas concerning sanitation and hygiene, with the result that this conflict, the greatest in history, is also undoubtedly the cleanest. Sure it is. Oh, goodness. I mean, the idea itself isn't bad. It's just not terribly practical now, is it? I understood that World War I, they were fighting mostly in trenches, which are just basically holes in the ground. I mean, they're covered in dirt. I mean, even like dipping your clothes in antiseptic like material, then like even that would not keep them clean. Like, I could understand, getting shot by a bullet very rarely gets infected, because where's it going to get any bacteria on it? It doesn't really. I mean, maybe it does a little bit, but not to the extent that shrapnel does, for example, which tends to get a lot of bacteria on it. And shrapnel, by definition, is just whatever's flying around. Like, it can literally be anything. So a lot of the germs might just be on the shrapnel itself. Like, for example, if it hit a wooden fence, before it got to you, like the bullet hit the fence instead of you, and the fence splintered into 15 million pieces, and one of those pieces drilled into you, then that's not going to be clean. I don't know how long that fence has been there. That's just an example, but that's, shrapnel can literally be anything. So if you're like wondering what shrapnel is made out of, yeah, it could be anything. Anything is shrapnel. Is if it can be exploded and enter your body, then that's shrapnel. It doesn't matter what it is. So it could be extremely dirty or extremely clean, or anywhere in between, which is probably most things. But like saying that you take a bath before you go into combat. So I'm in the trenches in World War I, and we're shooting at each other. Where am I supposed to take a bath? I'm just saying. Even if I could, would that get me clean enough that my wounds wouldn't get infected? Color me skeptical. I don't think that would help. It would help with other things, but it wouldn't help with that particular problem. Especially if you're hit by shrapnel, like I said, could be anything, and the shrapnel itself is carrying tons of bacteria. Then what are you supposed to do? Like, no, it doesn't matter how clean you are. If the shrapnel is dirty, then that's not helpful. All right, care of wounded. One of the principal reasons for the recovery of so much larger a percentage of the wounded in this war than in former wars is the care surgeons have learned to take to avoid infection. Actually, I think that's actually true. Yay, true things. All instruments and wrappings are thoroughly sterilized, and the hands of the surgeons are covered with sterilized rubber gloves so that they will not carry into the open wound microbes that might cause blood poisoning or gangrene, perhaps making it necessary to amputate an arm or a leg, even if the patient's life was not forfeited. When the wound has been treated, it is covered with sterile gauze and sterile bandages, which keep out the deadly germs and give the wound a chance to heal. Yay, this is great. I love... This is a wonderful article. Yeah, this is all about modern medicine. And this is something that I very much appreciate them knowing about, because this is still how we care for wounds today. Is that we use gloves, sterile gloves, wash our hands thoroughly. All of the instruments used are sterilized in alcohol. All of the instruments and wrappings are thoroughly sterilized. Like, that is all huge strides in medicine, and it wasn't even that long ago that they discovered germ theory. At this point, it was something along the lines of 30 or 40 years ago. So it was something that doctors were still getting used to. It was like, oh, germs, right. Hand washing, that's a thing? Yeah, right. So, like, sharing this information, it might be news to some people, but this is today, hopefully, very widely spread. Everybody knows this, hopefully. But I love true things. I'm not a big fan of fake news, but this one is true and I like it. Vocational war training. You want to make war your vocation? Sounds awesome. Ugh, sorry. Okay. The Committee on Education and Special Training of the War Department reports that nearly 50,000 soldiers in the United States Army training detachments are being given vocational training for overseas service. The training... What kind of vocational training? The training is being conducted in 2-month courses. Of this number, 17,000 are being taught auto mechanics. Oh, awesome. 5,000 auto driving. 2,000 blacksmithing. 4,500 carpentry. Nearly 3,000 are electricians. 1,000 gas engine operators. 1,000 general mechanics. 2,000 machinists. A little less than 4,000 radio operators, and nearly 1,000 sheet metal workers. Oh, cool. The other work varies from that of wheelwrights to cobblers and locomotive engineers. That's really cool. So they're kind of giving everybody a specialty. Not everybody, but they're giving many people a specialty so that they're good at this one thing, like really good at this one thing, and everybody comes to them if they need it done. Yeah, like radio operators. Radios back then were kind of complicated compared to today, especially, and it needed some specialist training. Yeah, they also had to know Morse code and be able to convert it to writing just by hearing it, which takes some practice. I mean, I can't do that. I don't know how many people here can. I could pretend to do Morse code, but I don't know Morse code well enough. Teaching them to be electricians and gas engine operators and general mechanics and machinists. Like, that's kind of impressive. So, my hat's off to you, U.S. Army. Good job. Granite washboards best. The old granite stones that have been used for washboards for ages don't seem to have worn much, and they still beat the modern washboards mighty bad, comments an Oklahoma soldier boy in a letter written from France to his home folks, according to the Manhattan Mercury. That's kind of cute, because where would he find granite washboards? If he's in France, he's on some sort of ancient Roman site, I think. And they're still using the washboards that are like built in over there. That's crazy. So there you go. Use the granite ones because, metal rusts. Yeah. Oh boy, here's another one. Wants to fight Germans. I tell you, I'm raring to go, Ralph J. Mears, a 19-year-old Beloit boy, told Army recruiting officers in the Salina station where he had gone to enlist. Those Germans make me itch to get at them. You see, Mears explained, I was hanging around the drugstore there one day at home when the graphophone began playing the song Don't Bite the Hand That's Feeding You, and I says to myself, that's right. If those old suckers don't like it over here, send 'em back home. And right then I made up my mind to go along and help put a few of them out of the way. So hurry up and get me fixed with Uncle Sam. What do you want, a non-com part of the service? The officer in charge wanted to know. Non-com is non-commissioned officer, which means enlisted man. It's another way of saying that. I do happen to know that one. I've watched enough MASH to know that one. Ah, shucks, no, I want to fight. Right into the thick of the thing for mine. Put me where I can make my work show up in the Teuton casualty list. The officer listed him as Coast Artillery. Well, I mean, it's probably a true story. Let me just put it that way. I feel like feeling that enthusiasm to go to war is not something that's really done today because we've seen so many pictures and videos of war itself, of real war, like what it's really like. And so today we don't really feel this strong desire to go as a people, I feel like. I know that there may still be individuals who feel this way. It's a little bit sad to me. Like, I feel like this is a very young person who just doesn't really know what they're doing. Makes me a little sad. Loans to our allies. The United States has now loaned to our allies. Oh, geez. Okay. $6,091,590,000. The advances average about $400 million a month. Wow, really? These loans to our allies are analogous. Okay, these loans to our allies are analogous to lending weapons to friends who are aiding you in the defense of your own home. The money is being used to defeat our enemy, to maintain armies fighting side by side with our soldiers, and fleets patrolling the same oceans with our soldiers. So why did they mention it? Like, I'm not sure why they're saying that. I guess they just want people to be informed of how much money they're spending on the war. But it's well known that you have to spend a lot of money on war. Yeah? This should not be a surprise. Oh, jeez. I feel like this one's a little better than last time at any rate. I do very much appreciate their information about vocational training and the care of wounds. And like talking about cleanliness, you know, I feel like this was a little more truth in it than the last one was. So I appreciate that. I love that they picked out the granite washboards. I wondered what they look like. You know what? I'm gonna see if I can find a picture, and I'll put it here. Hopefully, I can find a picture of the ancient granite washboards. If you have to wash your clothes by hand, I can't even imagine washing my clothes by hand today. Like, that's just, I mean, of course, everybody's done it with like single items, but imagine having an entire amount of clothes for a full week. And say, you know, today's washing day, wash all of your clothes. I hope you enjoyed our Microfiche time capsule for today. It kind of brought us back to the pre-flapper era. It's a very interesting time period. I feel like it was a transitional time period, and it's interesting to watch that transition. It's going from ancient, like 19th century things to 20th century things, which is much more advanced and much more modern. So I find that very fascinating. So please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and come join us for our next Microfiche time capsule.